All right, we are live. Let me get this tweeted out, everybody. And really excited tonight because we have a special guest tonight. So we'll get to that in a moment. But real quick, let's get a run through of the market to kind of see where we're at. So futures a little bit green right now, so that is something to look at after a big down day on Friday. But so far the monthly is holding up pretty good on the monthly chart. We're just a little bit of a green doji spinning top right over the prior green month. The weekly chart, dark cloud cover, very, very rare to see on the weekly chart, but here we are at the really close to the upper Bollinger Band, and kind of started up high last week and then covered over 50% of the prior range in an uptrend. So a little bit of dark cloud cover there. This has about 60% chance of follow through to the downside. So we'll see if that actually happens tomorrow and see how these futures hold up overnight. Daily chart, again, kind of red day. The real body engulfed the prior real body. Still holding that mid Bollinger Band there, so which is the 20 moving average. So we'll see if that see how that holds coming into Monday. On the price action, let's take a look. So these are the levels that we tweet out to our subscribers before every market open. So you can see, the price action, we kind of had these, tweezer tops up here. There's a little bit of a space in between, and then came back down, held this weekly pivot level, filled the gap pretty quickly in the morning, then kind of chopped around for a little bit before flushing into the close on Friday. So that made for an interesting day. And then you can see here on the daily chart that is basically giving us kind of like a little bit of a head and shoulders type situation, but mostly just kind of working on completing this pivot to the downside. So we'll see how far it goes. There are some gaps below. So if we did break below Thursday's low, there is a chance that we could see some gap fills going on there with into this support zone. So we'll see how that holds up for us there. So looking forward to this trading week and looking forward to seeing what the market has in store. But I'm really looking forward to our guest tonight. We have a special guest, Stephen Chase, also known as @Speculator, trading since college since the late 90s. So he's been through the dot-com boom and lots of fun stuff. And recently, in 2017, decided to go full-time, to become a full-time trader, leaving a successful job and starting to trade stocks, options, and futures. And he successfully trades those. And he also posts great ideas on Twitter. So the link to his Twitter page is in the YouTube description. I highly recommend going there and following him on Twitter because he's got lots of great ideas, and I really think you're going to enjoy his presentation here tonight. So without further ado, Speculator.
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me, John?
Yeah, I hear you. Yep, you're coming through loud and clear.
All right, cool. Okay, let me get this slideshow going here. I did a few slides here. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about full-time trading and some of the challenges that I've been going through since 2017, and then basically just a kind of a quick summary of some of the things that I do that I thought you guys might find interesting, including some strategies and just generally how I look at charts and how I view things. Okay, from the current slide. All right, so trading for a living, definitely challenging. It took me 5 years before I had the courage to actually do it. I've been addicted to the markets since basically the early 90s. Did my first trade in 1996 when I was still in college. And just kind of, I traded a company called iOmega, which I don't know.
Oh yeah, didn't they make the zip drives like the?
Yes, the zip drives.
Yeah, exactly. Zip drives. That's right.
Yep, that was my first trade, and I think I promptly lost about half my investment on that one. But yeah, ever since then, been really addicted. I guess before I did this, I worked in the software industry for quite a long time. Worked in the Virginia area. Won't name the company, but I worked for the same company for about 17 years, and some crazy stuff happened. Ended up leaving the company, and that kind of helped me get my stake, which we'll talk about in a minute. But okay, so the first thing I had to ask myself was, like, should I do this? I have a family. I have two kids and a wife, and so I was very tentative when I initially started out doing this. Um, my wife works in the landscape design industry, so she has good income, but the healthcare for her was not good, so we couldn't rely on that. So one of the biggest things that I deal with is paying for healthcare, and it is ridiculous.
I
I have
agree.
to
I
pay.
totally agree.
Yeah, you doing the same thing,
Yeah,
John?
it's obnoxious. It's obnoxious.
God, God, this country needs to solve that so bad, but I won't go there. But um, so I pay about $1,900 a month just for healthcare. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like what you need to do in a month, just to break even. So you can consider that your one of your largest business costs right there.
But for
Um,
all of our Canadian traders, they're okay. They
yeah,
just have
and
taxes to deal. They get taxed a lot on investment income. Sorry to interrupt there.
no, that's totally fine. Yeah, I've had some conversations with Canadian traders, and I'm sometimes I'm very jealous with the whole healthcare system.
Sure.
But in any case,
Yeah, it's one of
okay,
the
so
biggest nuts to crack for sure.
yeah, um, okay, so that now I listed some things here that I think you need. Obviously, you need a stake, and the higher the better, and we'll get into why you know the the larger your account size, the better. Um, However, I don't recommend that you have all your money in one account. You really need to protect yourself against what the human brain is capable of on your worst days. So what I do is I split my money across bank accounts, and a couple different trading accounts. Um, and I frequently pay myself. So I I try to have a regular schedule, just like a regular paycheck, twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the one of the reasons I say the higher the better is because I fully believe that when you are the higher the outperformance you're going for, the higher the risk. So, if you start with a $25,000 account and you need to make $50,000 a year to live off of, along with your partner, you have to take an inordinate amount of risk to turn a 25K account into $50,000 in a year. So, in other words, what this boils down to is you'll be stressed less with the higher the account size that you have. The lower the account size, the higher the stress.
Right. I think you're probably going to get into it, but one of the keys, is like you see, even the next one is find yourself as a trader. I mean, even if you have $1 million account that you're ready to trade, you have to know how to trade it, right? Because you
Yes.
could blow it out pretty quickly if you don't know how you trade and what your process is. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to talk about with
Yeah,
that.
and that is the second most important thing here is you have to before you start, you really have to find yourself as a trader. And what I've found over the decades is that from everything that I've read, everybody I've learned from, every book I've read, I'm basically an amalgamation of everything that I've learned. And but whatever you've learned has to actually flow and work with your personality. So and everybody does it differently, but for me, options is my main tool because I've found that it flows with my personality the best, but it's different for everybody. So and yeah, I kind of already alluded to this. You really have to match your trading instruments to your personality. And a lot of times on Twitter, you'll hear people touting their own methods, but really, and I've talked to so many people. Everybody has a different method that they've just found over time. Based on trial and error and back testing and just banging your head against the wall. If you are a profitable trader, you've basically matched a winning method to your personality. And I firmly believe that's what it takes.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, yeah. So when we talk about all sorts of different ideas, I put a lot of ideas out there, because it's like, something's going to click with somebody, that's out there. It's like, oh, somebody really clicks with moving averages. Someone really clicks with, pitchforks, that type of thing.
Yep,
So it's key to
exactly.
find, right? Exactly. It's key to find what your, what meshes with you.
For sure. Yes. Okay, and then obviously you need a risk management plan, and you need just self discipline. There's days where I hit a daily loss limit and I don't want to quit, but I'm like, I gotta freaking quit because every single thing I'm doing today is not working. So you really need to stick to that. One thing that I've done is I have these alerts on my phone. They're actually pre-recorded voice alerts that pop up about every 30 minutes, and they're asking me different questions. And like it'll say, "Are you sticking to your plan?" And then that just kind of jolts me out of whatever I'm trading, and makes me think about the higher risk management, and how I should be controlling things. And then I have weekly loss limits too. Um, Another important thing that's dawned on me really in the last few years is using P&L itself as a signal. So I tend to get bunches of wins in a row, I guess, with my strategies, and then I'll start getting 2 or 3 or 4 losses in a row, and that just tells me, okay, the market's changing. I need to take a step back. So I log everything into a spreadsheet, and when I start seeing red signals piling up, then I know that the strategy that I'm using now is not um, working with the current market environment.
Sorry, my wife is in another room laughing at something. So not laughing at us. Not laughing at us.
Okay.
And if you hear thunder in the background, we both have thunderstorms going through our areas. So if we get cut off, you'll know why. So.
Yeah, we've had some really brutal storms. It was 105 here today.
Wow,
Yeah,
it's been so hot.
yeah, crazy hot, and now the storms are, I guess the front moved through, but yeah, we had lightning and power flickered. So hopefully I won't lose you.
Gotcha. This is going great. This is really great. So this is all. Hopefully, this resonates with everybody who's kind of tuning in here, because I know I've had that before. I've even had situations where I'm like, if you're down a certain amount, just get up and go for a walk, right?
Yeah,
And then and then you come back from the walk, and then you get hit again. You're like, oh, it's that is very difficult. That's one of the hardest parts about trading.
yeah, definitely. And I'll get a little bit more into like mental capital, because I that is really under talked about. I think for me that's been the number one thing, and we'll talk about that in a second. But another thing that I really think you need if you're going to try to make a living at this is a way to really let your winners run and compound money. So one thing that I frequently do is I will attempt to buy or to win time. I call it winning time. So like I will trade, let's say Amazon weekly option, that's going to expire in 7 days. Those are risky, right? I mean, all of a sudden you lose $10 on Amazon, and you've lost 3/4 of the value of your option, or half, or whatever. So what I'll try to do is maybe day trade and get up $1,000 on that. I'll pay myself, maybe. All right, let's say I made like $2,000 on a weekly option trade. So I'll pay myself 1,000, and then I'll try to go out, another week on Amazon. So now I've bought myself a 2-week option, with what I've already made. And then, if that one happens to double, I'll pay myself again, and then kind of roll out to a month. So, but that's specific to Amazon. On other stocks, you because Amazon options are so expensive, that's the way I do it anyway. I'll go 1 week and then 2 weeks and then like the monthly options. But for like other stocks, you can do the near term expiring month, and then if you win on that, you can go out 2 months. So I hope that makes sense.
It does, yeah, yeah, absolutely. That makes
Okay.
because you like to, if you can get a good trade initially, then like you said, the idea is you want that winning trade to last. you know,
Yeah.
so
So it's a way of just riding the trend. You just keep on rolling your options out and out and out, and I that's one thing I've noticed that the hardcore pros really do. Um, they'll get a big win, and then you'll see them. And you see this on Twitter all the time. People reporting, "Oh, that was an option roll." So I'm trying to mimic what those guys do.
yeah, yeah, no, that's smart.
And then, and this goes back to discipline. I have a set of maybe three core strategies that I use, but they don't work in all markets. So what I'm constantly trying to do is identify the market that we're in. So when I don't have a strategy that matches the current market, I really try my best to not trade. So there's another case where I just walk away.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially what kills me is a lack of volatility. Like 2017,
Oh man,
yeah, it was just a slow grind.
grind
Like,
up, and it's just like I remember 2017, and you look at it, and it's like every day. Well, if I just bought spy calls at the beginning of the week and held at the end of the week, I'd be rich.
yeah, right, exactly. So that's and if it's kind of one of my fears. If that type of market happens for a long period of time, I'm really going to have to figure out how to adjust, because
Adjust,
right
yeah.
now I don't have a legit strategy for that type of a market. Um,
And it is interesting that you went full time basically in 2017. So you have this market that's kind of grinding its way up, and then volatility hits in 2018, right at the beginning of the
yeah,
year, right? And
yeah,
then we have this huge just up and down move, and that crazy move at the end of the year, and then now like this huge spike. I mean, so we really are in interesting times, especially for new traders out there. I mean, this is a different market than I think anybody's ever traded in.
yeah. It really is, and I won't go too much into this, but if you look at the really long term charts, the Fed has less and less and less firepower to deal with big issues that we're going to run into. When the Fed wants to drop rates, what back in the 80s and 90s, we were coming from a spot of much higher rates, so we could drop rates like really far. But now because we've run. I guess its policy itself has completely changed. We really don't have much firepower, in my opinion. So we'll see how this all shakes out.
Yeah,
And I'm not a doomsday type of trader. I always try to have a positive mindset. But man, I mean, what happens? We only have 9 rate cuts right now. What happens if things are going bad and we've gone through 9 rate cuts?
right.
So we'll see.
It'll be very interesting. Yeah. This is gonna be an interesting month, and we've got big earnings coming up this week, and we've got Fed like right at the end of the month too. So this is an interesting end of the month here.
Yeah, definitely. And the low volume in summer will probably add some craziness on top of it
Oh
too.
yeah,
And that kind of goes into the last bullet point here. You really need fortitude. So this is going to sound bad, but like when I first started this, um, I think there was a lot of adrenaline running through my body on a daily basis.
yes,
And I actually had some issues where I had to go get checked out by a doctor. I'm on the closer side to 50, so I'm not a young buck, but um, you know, I I went and got it checked out, and it turned out everything was completely fine. But what I would tell anybody is you really need to be able to, withstand some stress, and losses. A lot of people have a really hard time dealing with losses, but it's as you know, if you've been doing this for any length of time, losses are just part of it.
Right, right.
So, and then I already touched on this earlier, but literally the degree of risk, or the degree of outperformance that you're shooting for is really does correlate to stress levels. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
All right, so we'll hit the next slide here. So I just kind of went through some of the things that I've discovered here. You definitely need multiple strategies for different types of markets, so you need to have those before you start. Um, I've really realized that when I'm winning a lot, my strategy meshes with what the current market environment is doing.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm losing, it's the opposite. I'm
Right.
trying to do something that's not matching.
And that's the hardest part as a trader too, to realize that things are changing. It's like like we're like, oh, I messed up, or oh, something went wrong with that trade, and like you said, it happens again, and then we look back and we're like, wait a second, there's a reason that I'm wrong.
Yes,
There's a reason this is
exactly. Yeah.
happening.
And that's one of the things that I have popping up on my phone telling me, to check, is the market changing? Like, I ask myself that question about 3 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I wrote that down, just kind of what you said, that the most stressful time is when the market is morphing, because you don't know what's going on sometimes, and then that usually results in losses. So if you are noticing that conditions are changing, then it's just better to step away until you
Right.
can really put your finger on what's
Exactly,
going on.
unless you know what that change is, and sometimes it's so hard to switch, because we write the newsletter, and then this weekend was one of the things I wanted to mention is this, like, we, sometimes it's so hard to be like, okay, because as people we want to have a sentiment, right? We want to believe something, right? We want to say that, hey, this matches my thesis, right? On the market,
Right.
and
Right.
so we have this belief, oh, I'm bearish today, or I'm bullish today, or something happens, and sometimes it's hard to turn that off and switch to what's actually happening,
Yeah. Exactly.
especially
Yep.
intraday, especially
Yeah.
intraday.
Yeah. Intraday swings, man. Sometimes they can totally, make you think that something's happening, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it's just the algos messing with, making a run on stops or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the tricky part. Um, oh, and then okay, so mental capital, in my opinion, has been the toughest thing for me to manage. Because of the way I trade, it's very intense. There's a lot of guys out there. I shouldn't say guys, women and men out there that are trading longer term charts because that fits their personality better, and maybe that type of a strand or an intraday trader. So I'll trade really intensively for 2 weeks, and then I'll just feel it. Like, I'll feel the exhaustion, and I'll need to
Mm-hmm.
take a couple days off. So yeah, I wrote down here that trading drains you, and I used to play baseball when I was a kid. So you go into slumps, and you don't really have a manager that's going to pull you out and give you a break. You need to be your own manager, and maybe you're not seeing the ball properly, maybe you're not, you're just missing something, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't have somebody else. That person needs to be you. So
Right.
that's been a challenge for me. So I really try to take a break about after every 2 weeks.
That's smart. Yeah, it's the hardest easy job.
Yeah, yeah. And the next bullet point is kind of very similar to this. You really need an ability to sort of picture yourself sitting at your computer, kind of a top-down view, like zoom out and say, is what I'm doing right? Like, am I behaving correctly, or am I doing, stupid stuff I shouldn't be doing? You know, uh, you really need to remind yourself to do that on a frequent basis. Um, and then sizing up and sizing down. I feel like in the last year, especially, I've gotten a really good feel for intraday charts when volume begins to come in, for example, into a name, and you can kind of, after a while, just feel price doing what you want it to do. And then all your time frames are lining up. When your
Exactly.
weekly chart is up, your daily chart is up, the hourly has just like put in a hammer, and then the 5 minute is you're just seeing volume coming
Yep.
in.
Yep.
That's when I try to size up.
Exactly. That's like Roku, a couple weeks ago. It's like that hourly hammer that started the day. Everything else is going down, but Roku was going up.
Yeah.
You just feel it. You just know, but some days, that you just don't feel that volume is there. You don't see it. You don't feel it. And it's like, maybe I'll try this trade, but I'm definitely not going to put as much size on than I normally do, because you
Yeah.
just don't, it's just not there. So that's one of those, like more of an art than a science, so.
Exactly. Yeah. And you just touched on something that I'm really trying to work on, which is, the next bullet. I feel like I've been like not selective enough. So what I just described, is kind of my bread and butter. When all the time frames are doing what you want them to do, which that doesn't come around that often. But so I'm really trying to be more selective and keep myself out of the market when I'm not seeing exactly what I do. But this has been one of the more challenging things for me
And this is
lately. But
going back to
I'm
your
really making.
totally, yeah, going back to your first slide where you mentioned, having that account, that big account. That's what, because, and I apologize if the internet's kind of coming out. We do have a lot of storms coming through, but having that account size, just where you. Oh, there.
Hey.
Yeah, I think. Let me see. I'm gonna unbreak.
Worst that I've seen in a while
Yeah,
around here. I guess it's correlating to the temperature.
I think so. Yeah.
105.
Oh,
Jeez.
I know. I know. Okay, I think we're live again. So let me just retweet this out so everybody can jump back in.
Okay.
Sorry, thunderstorms, storms. YouTube. I'll have to get my son to help me edit this, so we can mesh them both
Edit
together
that
into
out.
one video. Yeah, he's a YouTube pro.
Oh, that's handy to have.
Yeah. All right, I think we are live again. Let me
Okay.
just make sure. Let me see if the stream is coming through okay.
All right.
So you guys can hear again? Are you guys there? Can you guys hear? Hey, enjoy life. Are we back? Is everybody here? Okay, good. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Here on the East Coast, there's like some torrential thunderstorms, and so okay, good. Yeah, so it's been knocking everything out, but I think we're good. All right, everybody's back. Now the real question is speculator, are you there?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
I'm here.
good. I think we left off with my rambling somewhere about sizing up and down. So, and then talking
Okay.
about evaluating the current market. So, and it's true. It is absolutely true. So,
Yeah. So, I've been really making an effort to be more selective, and just kind of wait, and wait for my checklist of things that I want to see, and then make the move. Um, the next bullet point is, I definitely hear a lot of people talking about limiting losses. So obviously, that's really something you need to do. But what I'm finding in the last couple of years is, in order to support myself and my family in this business, I really have to there has to be some component of letting my winners run. So so that goes back to kind of the compounding thing that I talked about before, and then I put this quote in here that most people have probably heard, but it's Jesse Livermore quote. When even if you take a quarter of your position and you just let it run,
Hmm.
when the conditions are right, when they meet when you're looking for, it's really hard sometimes to let it run. But I'm trying to get better at that. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. And then one of the last really important things is life balance. So this has been just a journey with my wife and I. There was, I won't lie, there was definitely some doubts early on. We've kind of come to an agreement. So I would really, anyone trying to do something like this, I would definitely make sure you're you kind of let your partner know what you're getting into and what to expect, and that there's going to be a period of a year where things might be a little bit rough, just like any business.
Hmm.
You know it's not easy, especially in the first year. And then then I put some really small things that have helped me. Stand up desk. I've from sports over the years, I've had some knee and hip issues, so stand up desk really really helps me. I got one a year ago. Well, I guess it's been about 9 months, 6 months ago, something like that. But it helps me a lot. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, do you have one too, John?
Sometimes I will. I've got a setup where I can stand up too. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's important. Like I exercise in the morning. Swim in the morning, and lift weights and stuff. And like that's key. Because there's so many
Yeah,
traders out there that you get consumed, right? I mean, the future's open, the news is out, and all that stuff, and it's hard to step away and take care of yourself, and you have to do it. And the
yeah,
water,
you,
I
you
definitely.
do. You do, because it directly, relates to the types of decisions that you're making. So if you're not at your peak, physical condition, if you're not drinking water, you're gonna, you really want your brain to be, doing what it needs to do so you can make the best decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, keep the water right next to you. Refill. Real quick though is if you're in a bad mood, or if you start your day off and like I don't know, you're cranky or you're not feeling good or whatever the case is, it's best not to trade that day. You know, it's that's why I focus on. That's why I always work out in the morning. Try to have a great attitude. Coming in every day, because if you ever notice if you have a losing trade, your mood can change.
Yes,
And if
definitely.
and then if you run into the hole of like making lots of mistakes, one of the key factors there is that the mood is still bad, right?
Yeah.
So bad mood doesn't help trading at all. So something to.
No. Yeah, once you've lost your confidence or your anger trading, or whatever it is, that can be really bad. And that goes back to the, you have to be your own manager and just call
Hmm.
yourself out on that. And sometimes that's really hard. So, all right, let me go to the next slide. Okay, so this is just kind of how I trade. Basically, I think of a chart as the heartbeat of sentiment. So that's all really a chart is to me. I mean, obviously it's price action, but it's basically the sentiment of how a stock is trading. So I basically think of four layers of sentiment, which is just different time frames: weekly, daily, hourly, and minutes. And we'll kind of get into how I use these different time frames, but I try to keep one list of 20 to 30 stocks, and I go over them every night, and I'll remove stocks and I'll add, based on what I'm seeing technically. But most of them are big cap. I really am looking for liquid option names. I hate when spreads are really wide.
Oh yeah,
You're just giving up 50 cents or whatever
sure,
for, yeah, I can't stand that.
exactly. Yeah, we
um,
talk about that a lot. So.
yep. And then so overall goals, I mean, this is just another way of saying buy the dip. But um, you know, when I want my weekly time frame to be, higher highs and lower lows, um, and I want the daily, to put in some sort of bottoming candle, um, and then I want to see, an hourly breakout, and then I want to see, a pullback on the 5 minute where I can get in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm looking for long. And I go over indicators every night, and some of the indicators that I use, you're probably very familiar with. So the equity put to call ratio, the total put to call ratio. I really use the VVIX a lot, which is the volatility of the VIX. Um,
Yes.
you use that too, John?
Well, I don't use it as often as I should, but it's a great tool.
Yeah, it really puts in, like, when you see in an uptrend, when I see a big red candle, um, I'm sorry, when in a downtrend, if I see, a big red candle, that tells me that, to look for a reversal. So that's kind of one of my short-term indicators here. And I can bring some of those up if we
Sure. Yeah,
want.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, and then for my intermediates, which, by the way, a lot of these have just turned negative. The Nasdaq summation index, the NASI. I can show you guys what I do with that. This is a really great one that will keep you in a bull move, and it will keep you out of trouble too. And then the bullish percent is point and figure buy signals on the Standard & Poor's 500. This is a really good one too. And then the high low, the NYSE high lows. I like to look for divergences here. So let me just bring some of these up.
Sure. Yeah, it'd be great.
Can you see what I'm doing here?
Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, this looks good.
Okay. So this is just stock charts free stuff here. But like, this is the high-low index here. I look for divergences on this one. So like,
If you could zoom
for
into that one,
example,
can you zoom into that one a little bit? Just, I'm not sure if you could blow up the screen there at all. It's just a little
um,
bit. If not, it's okay. We can kind of see what the chart's doing.
I don't know if I can
If not, it's
zoom.
fine. Yeah, yeah, no, it's no problem.
Okay. Yeah, because it's maximized on my
Yeah,
screen.
yeah, no,
But
that's fine.
so anyway, in September and in October here, before the massive dip, we definitely had an uptrending market, and we had a diverging high lows here. So
Huh.
that's one thing I'm looking for on a an intermediate term basis. And we're kind of starting to see something like that now. Um,
Sure. Yeah, I can
and
see a
I
little
I
bit.
really try not to call tops, but you can kind of see we're kind of market's been going up, and we're getting this divergence down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
I see that.
so that's one of them. Here, let me show you the Nazi, because this is one I got. I read Jesse Stein's book, which I highly recommend.
Yeah,
Have you read his book?
I have not, but it's on my list.
Yeah, he's great, and he's on Twitter.
Yeah,
He puts out some really good stuff.
I
But
saw you retweet him the other day. Yeah, he wrote a book. Didn't he turn like I can't remember like 10,000 into like 10 million or something like that?
yeah, he's one of those guys. Like, I
Yeah.
guess Zanger or whatever. He did that, and it was pretty impressive.
Yep.
He's like a micro cap specialist.
Right.
But this is one of the things that he uses, so I'm going to give him credit here.
Sure.
But you can see all this is the McClellan oscillator, but it's just the advancers minus the decliners, but it just gets added on to every day. So that makes it the summation index. So all that Jesse did here is put a 4-period moving average on the summation index, and you can see how effective this was. During the December dip here. I mean, this was brutal, and it caught the turn really well, and
Mm-hmm.
it kept you in the bull for a long time.
Sure. Absolutely.
And this thing just turned negative on Friday.
Great.
So yeah, I mean, I hate calling tops, but I try to make an amount. I try to look at like 7 or 8 of these things, and if 4 of them are pointing down, then I get really cautious.
Sure, absolutely. No, that's smart.
Um, let's see what else here. I do look at skew. Do you ever look at this? This is basically, um, I guess, long story short, how much traders are willing to pay for put options. Um,
Right.
so the lower it goes, I mean, obviously people were paying up big time for put options here.
Exactly. Exactly. That's also
So
a good time to sell them too.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I definitely keep an eye on that. Um, what else do I got here? The fear greed index. I like how this is. This is the CNN fear
Sure.
greed, and that this is nice to watch. Down at the bottom, there's a nice little. Um, I don't know how well you can see this, but it's a good chart. If you can see how low it got here at the December bottom. It
Sure.
was probably a
Extreme fear,
record.
and then it makes sense that it reverses right there. So
Yeah.
loves to do that. That's great.
And and then a breadth indicator that I really like is basically the 50 stocks, S&P stocks over their 50 day moving average divided by their 200-day moving average. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I've seen you tweet this before or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is a good one to look at to measure breadth, and that's starting to turn down too.
Right. Sure. Those are key levels, right? That's the gold cross that everybody looks for, right? The 50 and 200. So
Yeah. All right, let me go back here. So that's what I'm looking at on a nightly basis. For the market, I kind of have grouped them into short-term indicators and then intermediates. And my goal is to um, determine if the market has made a sentiment bottom, and then I want to see a sentiment bottom on whatever stock I'm interested in. Um, and so here's an example. The market is
can you
positive.
speculator, if you can blow up that slideshow thing again, just so we can kind of see the,
Yeah,
if you don't
I
mind.
could do that. Sure. Current slide. You see that better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just trying to go over an example to visualize what I'm looking for. So let's say the market is positive on a weekly basis, and it puts in a reversal candle, like a hammer candle, say on the daily. Um, and I'm looking at Amazon. I see the sentiment is positive on Amazon. It's making higher highs, higher lows. And then I also see a hammer candle there. The next day, the hourly chart breaks out of a range. I use Keltner channels on the lower time frame, so I
Okay.
wait. So I if I've missed that morning breakout on the hourly bar, then I'll wait, for Amazon to go back and test the bottom of the Keltner channel, and
On
then
the
that's
5 minute chart. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's great. That's a great way to find a pullback.
Yeah, so that way, I can be really confident I have all the time frames lined up. So that's really what I'm looking for. Um, so that's a lot of my core long-term strategy. That's one of my main ones. For my short-term strategies, and these have been really profitable for me when the market really gets ugly, like in the December timeframe.
Right.
Um, just trading ES and NQ futures, basically just when the futures are moving that fast, it's dangerous. But if you look at tick, and the market, let's say it gaps down in the morning, it'll usually try to push shorts out by then reversing and going higher in the day. If you watch tick, and you have a firm feeling that the market's going to end the day lower. If you watch tick and tick hits 600 at some point during the day, that's usually a really good spot
Good
to
signal to
to
short.
short.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do a lot of that. I'll take sometimes shorter term SPY puts. Once the market, I try to buy those puts when the market has tried to push shorts out.
Right. No, that
You
makes sense.
know? Just real quick, have you been watching Netflix the last few
Absolutely.
days?
And I meant to get puts on it if it broke the 30-minute low on which we call the 30 orb, the 30 orb low on Friday, and I was looking elsewhere, and that was a nice 5x option trade if you grab that at the end of the day.
Yeah, I had a decent trade on that one, but when it broke 320, I guess that was more in the latter half of the day.
That was the key level too. Absolutely.
Yeah, yep. So I'll be looking at that one this week for sure. I think it can, it may gap down tomorrow. We'll see, but I
Right.
could easily see in it. It's the 300 is probably a magnet for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a
So
nice little gap down there and everything.
yeah. Um, okay, and then I do a lot with candlesticks, and then just as I mentioned before, just tape reading. So really watching for um, turning points, basically pivot points in on charts. So I'm looking for hammer candles, engulfing candles, especially at resistance. I'm looking for expanding volume, and I have a couple examples of that. And then relative volume, I really, if I'm doing any kind of a day trade, I really want to have a stock that, let's say, just released earnings or some news is moving it. I want, a really high relative volume in there. Um, so I try a lot of times. I try to time my trades with news. I had a really good AMD trade recently where The Verge
Oh yeah, I remember
had
you tweeting lots of news out on AMT too recently. So
yeah
yeah,
yeah
absolutely.
they had a new the new 7 nanometer chip was being released, and the stock had pulled back into that before the news, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be a good opportunity
Right.
here. And we can go over that. I kind of diagrammed out a chart real quick on
Sure.
that one. But yeah, I usually, my some of my best trades have been when I time it with news, whether I did it on purpose or not, or some sort of new product announcement, or just a run into earnings, which happens a lot. Um, and then another thing I've been trying to do lately is just kind of get some smaller strategies where I'm just exploiting market tendencies. So this one's been all over Twitter lately, but the overnight gap is crazy. I
It
mean,
is. It really is.
yeah. So I've been trying to just take maybe when I'm confident in the trend, and there's been a little bit of a pullback, I try to use Bollinger Bands and take like maybe 0.5% or 1% of my account, and I'll try to nail like a calls, SPY calls at an intraday bottom, and then the next morning I'll just sell.
Yep.
So but the key is just using a small
Small
percentage of your
percent.
account,
Exactly.
because if you get a gap down, then
Oh yeah, you could get it just crushed.
yep, yep. But
Well, if you have it
it
right.
happens a lot where it's half the gains in a day are just on the
On the
gap
gap.
up.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then another tendency is obviously stocks tend to bounce off moving averages. So I'm actually trying to write some code right now in Python to send me a a constant running list of updates, when S&P stocks are hitting various moving averages. That's probably out there, but I'm just trying to, I could probably buy that as a service or something, but I'm trying to just do it myself.
Sure.
So we'll see. Um, okay, so just a couple examples here. Can you see this okay?
I can. Yeah, it looks great.
Okay, so this was
Love the trader script too.
having to write with the mouse is really
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great.
so this is kind of example of what I've been what I was talking about here. So AMD in an uptrend, definitely had been noticing the strength in AMD. There was a Verge article saying that they were kind of coming out with 7 nanometer chips on a particular date. I'm forgetting the date now. I think it was like the 7th or the 9th or something
Feels like
of
yesterday.
July. Yeah, of July. And then so yeah, here's July 3rd. Before the July 4th holiday,
Sure.
very low volume. I love to see that. I love to see, the sellers kind of drying up, and then you get this bar, even though it was pre-holiday,
Sure.
you get this bar of, not a whole lot of interest here,
Right.
and the next day you get this engulfing candle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then and based on the research you've done, that this is all leading up to the day when they're going to release their new chip. So and then the next day it puts in a hammer bar,
Yep.
and then you get this huge move, and you could just feel this thing like I think I have the 15-minute. Yeah, so here's the 15-minute in that same time frame, and early in July here, volume was declining. Um,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and this is July 3rd, and then you just see this volume begin to ramp, like, and especially this point, this is where I got really confident, because this was middle of the day, this was like lunchtime, and nothing ever happens. I mean,
Right.
rarely, and so someone was taking a very large position here, which really got my confidence level up
Sure.
here.
Yeah. Somebody took
And then,
advantage of that.
yeah, and so you can just see here, this is just really accumulation volume.
Yeah.
So
No, that's
so that
great.
was
Yeah. Beautiful
that,
trade.
yeah, that was a good one. And then sorry, let me put this. So this was just another example of Boeing. I've been trying to trade Boeing, which sometimes has been good to me and sometimes has been really bad to me.
Understand.
But this is a great example of accumulation volume here. I mean, when you see it pick up like that,
Oh yeah. Honestly,
definitely a
Boeing kept the
buyer.
market up on Friday.
Yeah, yeah, it did. I think we'll see. Mondays haven't usually been very good for Boeing, but I haven't seen any horrible news stories, but I don't know.
They've got earnings this week too. So I think
Uh,
you mentioned I think even on Twitter you said hey they came out and they say they took that write off loss already pre
yeah,
earnings, and so now in earnings it's all about really guidance I guess I mean everyone knows they're going to take the hit. So
exactly. Yeah, so I think a lot of the bad news is out. So if they give guidance that is at all palatable to Wall Street, I think you could see a nice move there back towards 400.
sure, yeah, that huge gap up there, sir.
Yeah. Um, so these are just a few setups that I threw on here, and I'm almost done. Am I going over with time
No,
here?
you're doing great. You're doing great, man.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So these are just a few setups that I really kind of like to look for. Um, this one is on Ameren. So I really like to see like a heavily shorted stock, and so this bar here, um, shorts probably got really excited because this was kind of
Uh huh. Oh yeah,
far
absolutely.
away. Yeah, far away from the 20-day moving average, which is this orange line here. And then the next day, big news came out. I forget what that was. Was it
Uh,
earnings or sales or something?
yeah, they Ameren upped their guidance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they came out and upped their guidance, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Exactly. And so then the next day, you have all these shorts who are trapped that entered that day. Plus, you already have 17% of the float short. So
And you
and then
gapped over one, two, three, and then eventually pushed over four prior pivot levels too, where if anybody is short, right, that's where their stops are. We talked about
yeah,
that last week, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So that's even better when it goes over a major resistance line. You got everybody with stops up there. it didn't. I was surprised it didn't go more, but
I know there it kind of got hit, but even those minor pivots before it, like in June and May, there's just those little, those little tops there. People are parked there, and then that last one there in April, it just creamed right through him. So just
yeah,
plowed right through it.
yep. And then this was a really great setup on Amazon here. This I really like seeing weekly bars like this on heavy volume. This one gave me a lot of confidence here, so I was willing to go heavy on that. Once I see a bar like that, I mean that's like almost the holy grail to me.
Right, right.
And let me bring this one, and then of course, let me bring this to the front. This is, I guess, Trader Stewie has sort of made this one famous, but the
Oh, the peg. That's right. Yeah,
the
absolutely.
power earnings gap, yeah, those are great to trade. Especially on like day two.
Yep. Just
If
take out the high on day 2 or 3. You're good to go.
yeah, yeah, and especially if it puts in a candle like that after the power earnings
Yes.
gap. I mean,
Yep.
that's great. So I look for setups like that, and then I have some others, but I didn't have time to throw them on. But just a couple potentials that I thought you guys might be interested in. I was seeing some accumulation volume in Schwab, and they had um, a press release that they were buying um, the
Oh,
USA,
USAA. USAA.
yeah, USA Wealth Management Unit, which I'm actually use USAA, and they're a great
We
company.
do
And
too, and I was actually like thinking about now, like taking it out because of Schwab.
oh yeah, okay.
It was good
Yeah,
news for the stock, but that wasn't good news to me.
yeah, right, right. Um, so these, I feel like Schwab and E Trade, those guys have been really overlooked. So
Yeah,
they haven't really participated as much. So I was thinking this might be. I'm going to be watching that this
they're
week.
great to trade, and they when news comes out, like for instance, I think it was wasn't TD Ameritrade was going to buy E Trade. I mean,
Ah,
that was last year, I believe, but it was I mean, huge. I mean, they were just great to trade. I mean, you could really just jump in on that news and do it. Then Schwab, there was one of my best trades even last year was on Schwab,
oh wow.
and E Trade. It was when J.P. Morgan came out and said that they were going to start like a low commission or even no, I think some sort of super low commission platform, right? And it knocked
Yeah,
down, it gapped down both E Trade and Schwab, and I was like, well, that's gonna, that's not gonna stick, So you just load up on options on those. That was a great trade.
yeah, cool, very cool. Um, and then have you been doing anything with pay sign?
No, you've been talking about that so much, and I'm like,
Yeah,
dude,
this stock, I mean, it's nuts. You never see accumulation volume like that. So,
yeah.
I mean, I just bought a tiny bit and put some in my son's Robinhood account, for college, but I
Hmm.
have been scared to do anything because it's just on this parabolic move. I really want some sort of a pullback, and then I might try. But that is just amazing when you see that kind of volume.
Right, yeah, you brought that to my attention. Oh, that's incredible.
And then let me pull this one to the front. Sorry to keep switching back and forth. This one is health equity from the current slide. Yeah, so this is the weekly chart on here. So this volume is great too. So I would keep an eye on this one. Do you know this one at all, John? Have you?
I don't mess with it too much. But yeah, that's definitely one to keep an eye on for sure. That volume does look interesting. 2 big
Okay.
weeks too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping for a little bit of a pullback here.
Right.
And then the last one that I wanted to bring up. Oh, just Boeing. Yeah, I mean, this has been really tough for me. I've had big wins and I've also had some big losses on this one.
Yeah, it's tough to
Um,
time, and it's been really, really tricky after that huge gap down.
yeah. But yeah, like we said, and this is the weekly. I mean, you got this really important spot here, 380. I think this can get going once all the information is out and known. I really think it can get going and get back towards 400.
Sure.
And I really like the fact that there's been so much negative news in the past 2 weeks, and the thing has really gone, just powered through it all. And I've definitely seen evidence on like the 15 minute that there's an active set of buyers there that coming in with a lot of volume.
Yeah, the
So
that gap on Friday too. The gap and go on Friday was just was great for Boeing because that night, remember they came out with putting out those numbers and squeezed everybody out in the morning,
yeah,
and then it kept going even when the market was going down. That was impressive for Boeing.
yeah, exactly. Yep. All right, so that's pretty much all I have.
Awesome. Wow, speculator Steve, that was great. Really appreciate you sharing all this awesome knowledge with us, and going through what it's like being a full-time trader. What some ideas and thoughts for anybody considering doing it for a living, and everything from account size to making sure your family's okay with it, to making sure that like what kind of bills you have, and how to control your stress and maintain your health during the whole thing too. So those are all really really key. And then a lot of the tools that you use in different markets. So that was really fantastic, man. I really appreciate you sharing, and I'm sure everybody who tunes in and watches this video will too, for sure. So
Cool.
so
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah. So I know it's a little bit late, but I don't know if you have time to look at some charts. If anybody has any requests out there, but if not, it's okay. We can we can kind of conclude this, and I'll run through some stuff with folks too. So totally up to you.
Sure, I'd be happy to do any charts.
Cool.
That'd be great.
And I'm sure
Oh,
people have some questions too. So let me just kind of go through the viewer box here and just kind of see what everybody's got to say. And if there's
okay.
any chart requests, folks, feel free to plug those into the chat window. We'll get through as many as we can. We'll try to give Steve a break so he can get some rest this evening, and try to wrap it up at least by, I don't know, maybe 9:15, 9:20ish maybe, so we can. So
Sure.
all right. So hey, Netfry, how's it going? Nikolai, thanks for tuning in. Stacy, welcome. Heather, good to see you. Krishna, good evening. Yeah, sorry for the thunderstorms, guys, like in getting us disconnected, but it looks like we're back on, so that's good. Glad everybody was able to get back on. You're right. How's it going? Good. Hey, Speculator is a great speaker. Yes, I agree. Thank you so much, Steve.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Julian, cheers, my friend. Krishna, okay, here we go. Thoughts on ZM and Roku, please.
ZM. All right. Oh, this is Zoom. Okay. These ones are pretty tough for me that are very new. Yeah, here, let me put my 20, 50, 50, 20, 200. Okay. Yeah, they don't even, they're so new, they don't even have the
Oh
moving
yeah, yeah. So
averages yet.
right, exactly. They don't have an RSI up yet, and some of them.
Yeah, I would be very careful here. Just in general, if you can tell by my what I spoke earlier, I feel like the market has a decent chance to pull back here. And some of these high flying new IPOs are probably going to get hit pretty big. I really hesitate to call a top because half the time I'm freaking wrong. But I'm just seeing a lot of different signals that are showing me we need to get rid of some of this sentiment. There was a sentiment trader post out there that I saw on CNBC, and also Jesse Stein put it out there too. That it's the dumb money, smart money post,
Oh
and
yeah, I saw you tweet that. That was a good one.
yeah. So the SPY has a really bad record after 80% of dumb money has gone long, and we hit that point. And dumb money, I mean, I don't know how they characterize that, but they have some way. I think it has to do with traders who've proved themselves wrong in the past. That's what I've heard.
Interesting.
So
And they have it. I mean, all the brokers have records of this. I mean, like TD Ameritrade and brokers, like if you've got a losing streak, they'll start to bet against you. Like they will
Oh,
literally take their
really?
own capital, and if when you put on a trade, they will take the opposite position. So if you thought you were doing bad in a losing streak anyway, wait till now the institutions know you're on a bad streak, and then they start going against you. Now you're really going to be on a bad streak, because they're going to push.
Oh,
They're going to push hard. So
that's crazy.
it's terrible, but they have that data, and that's what they do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Um, so yeah, on Zoom, if the market holds up, maybe you look for a bounce off of this level here. This is obvious support. So 92. If it
Yep.
breaks below 92, especially on heavy volume on say the 15-minute chart,
Yeah.
I'd think about possibly shorting it.
Sure.
Um, I don't know how many months past the IPO are, but you always have to be aware of when the insiders are able to sell. So I don't know if we're past that point or if it's getting close or not, but
Mm-hmm.
that's a pretty lucrative trade. If you can somehow get the date of when insiders are able to bail, then, if you can be watching and you all of a sudden you see this volume come in, that's not nice point to go short.
Absolutely.
But if you're looking long, I would look in this area for support, and you want to see a drying up of down volume, and then
Mm-hmm.
you want to see up volume begin to increase.
Totally. Totally agree. And then Roku was another one.
Whoops, Roku. Let's go.
Yeah. This internet today is
There
pretty
we go.
funny. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, Roku's been an animal. I've had a few trades off of this. The thing is just so incredibly strong.
Beast mode.
You've been trading this too a lot,
Oh
John?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I
It's
mean, how
been
can you
great.
not? There's very few stocks that act like this. I mean, anytime there's any kind of a pullback, it's almost like there's this appetite to just force shorts out again, so it just rockets back up. Um, if you're trying to stay in this long, for a long period of time, that's one thing. If you're trying to trade it, you obviously want to figure out or try to find like areas where longs have been pushed out. So you want to see like a burst down on heavy volume where longs got pushed out, and then it reverses. Like this gap down, that would have been a good one. And then you see
Yep, that was
this.
a good. We traded that one. That was a good one.
Yeah. So you use the ORB a lot. I saw
I
that's
do.
that's
Yeah.
it's a great way to do it. So is
It's
that
key.
kind of a standard core way of trading in your system?
It is. Yeah, definitely. So that first 15-minute bar really gives usually a big chunk of volume of the day, and it kind of defines those key lines, right, for where the bulls are and the bears are for that day. And
Uh-huh.
but we focus on it, if there's real news, right? If there's if it's gapping, right, for a reason. If it's gapping with the market, we ignore it. But if it's gapping down, say like on a downgrade, right? And I think that was what happened that day. That it just spikes new volatility into the stock and new volume, and that first 15-minute bar, that 15 orb, really defines some key levels. So if you can catch some price action within there, like a candlestick, like an inside bar, and I think that one did that day, gave us like an inside 15 right at the top of the level, and then it finally broke out of it and gave a really really nice trade that day. And then
Yeah.
sometimes you can look to hold it a little bit too, and if you hold it, if, like you said, letting those winners run, if you have a quarter of your position on still, then you catch that next big move up too, and it's phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. Um, so obviously this area support 106 down to 104. This thing is hard though, man. It's just it's all over. I would be. It's tough to make any kind of decisions on it on a daily chart. You really got to kind of go in and see the volume on the lower time frames. But man, when this thing turns down, and if people lose confidence, and it looks like earnings are coming up
Right,
here,
right around the corner, yeah.
yeah. I mean, if the expectations in this company are so incredibly high, if they do any kind of miss or
Which is very possible with them. They've missed before, and it's been like pretty significant. It's like, oh yeah, we missed by about 50% of what we thought we were gonna do. Oh, okay, flash.
yeah, yeah. So I would trade this thing, on a day trade basis, but I have a real hard time
Oh yeah,
holding it
absolutely.
overnight. So
Absolutely
hopefully
good.
that helps.
Let's see. Let's see what else we got. Let's see. So, we got a question. Are you guys in the military? USA is for military folks, no, and family. Yeah. So, I'm a vet, and I don't know if Steve is, but if you have family that's in it too, like parents, I think, I think you can still get in USA too. So.
Yeah, my father was in the Air Force. He actually was in Vietnam and flew jets in Vietnam.
Oh
So
wow.
that's how my family got it. But it's a great company. I mean,
No,
if
they'd be
and
great.
I would highly recommend their customer service is unbelievable.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I mean, even when sometimes when there's government shutdowns too, and if you have an account with them, they'll still make sure you get paid even if you didn't get a check. Like it's pretty phenomenal. So
Yeah.
they do good stuff. But yeah, good stuff. So I've got a request for MU. That is a great one to look at. Gosh, that's
Yeah,
MU.
that's a great stock. It's kind of so ever since AMD turned down, I'm feeling like a lot. This is AMD. They had that huge news on the 7 nanometer chip coming out,
Right.
and then there were some analysts that come out and said, "Okay, AMD is overvalued now. You've got a lot of everything good baked in." They do. AMD still has more um, good announcements coming out in August and in September, so I'll be watching for a lead up trade to those. But I do feel like a lot of the money that was in AMD has come flowing out and possibly flowing into Micron. Um, it definitely broke out here on Friday. I had been watching that. I had a trade on here. This is a great stock. Obviously, it has to hold this zone 44, and maybe just say Friday's low, 44.61. Hopefully it can hold there. But yeah, right now I think it's one of the stronger semis. So I'd definitely be, maybe it's kind of extended now, so it's tough to get in. But if
Right.
you do, you could just kind of ride it up with a stop below each daily candle, and
Yeah.
maybe it'll go all the way to 50 before violating a low. But I don't know. A lot of it depends on the SMH and how the market is going to roll. But you know, obviously look for an intraday pullback. That's what I use Keltner channels during on the 5, and I try to get a pullback to that or as
Yes.
close as possible.
That's awesome. I've got a question here, speculator. What is your option trading volume? Oh, like do you trade 10? Do you trade 50? How many contracts do you typically trade? Was the question there?
So
You don't have to answer if it's it's personal.
I don't mind. I mean, it totally depends on the stock and the price of the option and everything.
And it depends, guys. That this question itself is kind of it's a great question, but it's also just because if speculator trades 100 calls or 100 puts doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, exactly.
So just
Yeah,
remember that.
I mean, I don't really know how to answer that because it totally does vary on the stock. But
It does.
I have traded 100 lots, and it freaks me out. But when I really have conviction on a trade, I'll trade. I will trade 100 lot or 50 lot or whatever. But again, I have to see a series of things for me to ramp up to something like that. And I scale in and out with options. I don't shove it all in at once. I'm scaling in and out.
Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of scaling, if anyone is trading futures, if your account size, if you're not comfortable trading, two or three or four or whatever futures contracts, I really like the MNQ and the MES
Those are the new ones.
because,
Yeah, the new
yeah,
micros. Yeah.
those are great because you can scale so well, meaning like, let me just bring up SPY. Let's just pretend that
You don't
this
have to
is
YOLO on every trade. It's like
yeah, like if you have a suspicion that the market's getting weak, let's say this just happened, okay, and you're like, oh man, I have a thesis now that the market is turning down. We saw some pretty big volume here. You can on with the MES and MNQ, you can put a short here for one contract, a short here, a short here, a short here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You can run those things all over your chart, and whatever the market does, you're not too pressed if it takes out 3, 4, 5. It's still 5 MNQ is only half of a full NQ. So
exactly.
I've been really impressed with like the ability to scale with those things, especially if you're planning on holding these overnight. I mean, you can scale over a really wide range, and then also scale out. So
That's a great
I've
point. Yeah.
yeah, I've had a lot of luck with those
And that's a
recently.
key too. I mean, it also depends on the stock, right? You don't want to do, 50 calls or puts on something with, 50, 60 point spreads if you're not used to trading it. You know what I mean? Because, when it makes a little pullback, it's like, oh, what have I done? That type of thing. So you definitely want to be familiar with the stock too. So,
Right. Yeah.
so good. Sarah, amazing presentation. Thanks. So that's a great comment. Thank you. Um, Warmer, how's it going? So great stuff, guys. Much appreciated. Can we take a look at Microsoft and AMD? So I know we've looked at AMD already, but speculator, if you could pull up Microsoft, that would be awesome.
Sure. Yeah, Microsoft, man, I did take a hit on this, but then I went back afterwards and I kind of kicked myself because if you look at every earnings, I mean Microsoft generally sells off or at least gets slightly weak after earnings. Like
Yeah,
the last
and they
the
always
last
beat. They always beat on earnings. Too.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, in this
like,
time and I actually listened to the call and everything was incredibly
it was.
positive. So I got sucked in, and I did take a call position on this pullback, and then I was like, "Oh, great, I nailed it!" And then boom,
Right,
and
right, right. Oh, trust me, I know that feeling.
yeah, so I
Because it's
got
going. It's got. Oh, you got
yeah,
4 bars. 3 bars, maybe we'll see. But 4 bars, oh,
yeah. So and a lot of times I'll scale out, but when I saw this, it dawned on me that I was like, okay, they tend to just sell off on earnings. So I
right.
got out. So anyway, in any case, I would not buy it here. I would wait for a pullback. Maybe you'll even get the 50-day if we're lucky. But man, the
Right.
market's been really hard for any.
Microsoft's been crazy. I mean, a lot. I mean, a lot of stocks have been crazy recently, but like Microsoft's just really just been on this freight train type move. Yeah, Starbucks has been as well. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
I don't know if you've seen Starbucks. Like, I just can't believe how. I think it's going to like 200. I mean,
Is this all because of China? I know
I
that.
mean, there's really no reason for it. I mean, I guess like a little bit of it, but not really. It's just they've been loading up on it. I can't believe it. I mean,
Wow. Look
I've
at
never
that
seen
breakout
Starbucks.
on
I
the
used to trade this
weekly.
on Friday just for fun all the time because it traded well on Fridays. Like you could usually buy, it would pull back on a Friday, and then you could just buy a ton of calls, and then you'd be good. And but I've never seen it behave like this. It's really really rare for Starbucks.
Yeah, that's nuts. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it a ton, but I do remember hearing that like China was really doing well for them. But this is the weekly chart. That breakout is
Isn't
impressive,
it
man.
incredible? It's amazing.
God, how did I miss that
I
one?
know, and then every time I look at it, I'm like, oh well, great, because we were long back in I think May. I think we caught a good move on this back. I can't remember when it was, but we caught a decent move on this, earlier this year, and and I was like, okay, it'll hit 71 is kind of the target, and then yeah, I think it was back in that early this year, and so I was like 71 is a good target, and I think we scaled out at like 68 or something like that, and then it just kept on going. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Starbucks? Anyway, so awesome, yeah. So great, yeah, great chart on Microsoft. Best kept secret, great presentation. Thank you. Our pleasure. Um,
Thanks.
Manoj, thank you, speculator. Great session. When you enter and exit day trade at high, when I think Manoj, I think you're asking. So when do you enter and exit a day trade at a high level?
Okay, so let's just do like SPY here. So I use Keltner's, and I use like tick indicators. Well, now I got too many lines going on here. Let me get some of these off. Um, Okay, I guess the short answer is I'm I'm looking for a pullback that is going to flush longs every single day. And one thing that I've tried to do recently, and it's kind of a pretty effective thing to do if you can put yourself in the mindset. Like I will pretend like I take a position, and I will try to pretend feel the pain. Like if, like for example, this down move, there was people feeling a lot of pain here. Day trading. Um,
Absolutely.
so what I'm looking for is for a volume flush down here, and then like a reversal candle like you have here. And then I love it when it comes off of the 2 times and 3 times Keltner channel. So I'll try to take a position here. This is much easier said, by the way, than done. But
Correct.
anyway, I'm looking for a breakout move after coming off of a flush like this, and then I just a lot of times I'll take profits when it hits the top of the 2 times Keltner, or I'm looking for a big volume spike and a tick above, say, 800, or so I'm looking for a big
Yeah.
sentiment spike up. A lot of times lately it's been happening on some Trump tweet or whatever it is. So I always try to sell into euphoria and buy into pain. That's generally
Nice.
what yeah.
It's a great concept. Absolutely. Um, let's see. Thank you for your service and for your fathers. Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you for your support. Let's see, Netfry. Thanks, BH and Speculator. Great show. Awesome. Casey, Shirley, how's it going? Thoughts on Amazon and Google?
Amazon is one it's always on my list, mainly because I'm using that strategy that I talked about where I try to compound with Amazon. That said, I think big tech may be in for a pullback here. Maybe you can get it here at the bottom of the Keltner. Let me put the moving averages back on here. 200.
So do you use TradingView all the time for your charting? Do you use their pro
I do
version? Or?
because I do. Yeah, I pay for it, so I really like all the alerts. You can go like this. You can say add an alert. You can you can see all the lines I put on here, and then you can add an alert to the line. You can add alerts on the moving averages, and then you can have them sent to your phone.
Yeah.
I have alerts.
Does it send you the alert instantaneously when it hits the moving average?
Yeah, it
Okay,
does. It's amazingly quick.
that's key. That's
Um,
really key.
so yeah, I frequently or set. I mean, I'm doing that all day long. I'm looking at charts. I'm putting these lines in and setting alerts. Um, so anyway, this is a big level. 1962. If we get some sort of move down and then a hammer Monday or Tuesday, I think maybe we'll be in good shape. But this is, forming a cup and a handle, and it broke out here, but now it's kind of a false breakout, especially if it breaks below, 1943, 1940, especially if it starts, breaking 1920. That may coincide with a much lower move in the market. So, um, then again, who knows what could happen tomorrow? It could gap over 2,000, and then all these people that were short could be trapped. But I'm not touching it right now. I'm kind of waiting for um, a big cap tech pullback because I feel like there could be one coming. Because I mean, look at this move. Just the June move alone is huge. So you could put some fibs on here. Let's do that real quick. Okay, so it came down and tagged the 23.6 fib retracement. Down here is the 38, and by the time it gets down there, maybe the 50-day moving average is up there. So I like to look at that too. If a fib coincides with a major moving level, moving average. So if you get the 50 and the 50-day moving average, and then this fib coinciding here, and then if you see Amazon come down, tag that, and then quickly reverse. That's a really
It's a
good
good
signal.
signal. Nice. Yeah. Sorry guys, my sometimes my YouTube chat box jumps around, so I missed best kept secret KN, and then Stacy said great presentation. Can we get access to the PowerPoint? That's up to you, Steve. If you want to share it with our subscribers, we could post it on our drive there, but that's totally up to you. Um,
Sure. Yeah, I'll send it to you, John, and you can post it
sure.
wherever.
Okay, cool. That'd be great. Um, at KN, so
Okay, in.
Kilo
Okay.
November.
Oh, it's interesting. I don't know this one at all. What
Yeah,
is
I've never
is
looked at it either. It's kind of interesting.
is this a retailer? Let me go
Knowles. I think
to
I've heard of this before. Knowles. I think it might be a retail type thing.
let me go to Finviz real quick. And communication equipment.
Okay, no, it's not a retailer. I
Uh,
was like, yeah, I think
it's
I've been there before.
definitely tech.
Maybe I was thinking about
Uh,
Kohl's. Sorry, guys.
I don't know this one at all, but I'll just go from a chart
Yeah, just from a
standpoint.
chart standpoint, that's cool. Again, that's
Um,
all about too. Like, what do we trade? What are the things that we trade? That's a key area.
Geez, earnings are. Be careful if you're thinking long, because it looks like earnings are Wednesday. But let's just do a little bit of volume here. It looks like you had, sort of a euphoric spike up, then a reversal candle here. It's still in a downtrend. This is a bit of a bear flag right here. Um, I would say, you know, if it breaks Friday's low, you could get another push down here, and then there might be some decent support here at 17. If 17 holds, maybe that's a good spot for you. If 17 doesn't hold, then you could test this gap all the way down here. But yeah, I would be careful of any longs, especially going into earnings right now. I would wait.
Yeah, that's
If
good
they
thinking. Yeah.
if they have a good earnings number, maybe you play it after.
Right. And if you have a position already, you might want to consider, just being careful going into earnings. So
Yeah,
always be careful going into earnings.
you
So
can. I don't know if you have access to options, but if you have a big position, you could always buy some protective puts.
sure. Absolutely. And then Uri, thanks for your answer on MU. And I was always curious about this as Bill Miller has been buying this and it's been diving the past year. So yeah, MU's been interesting, definitely. So well, good stuff, guys. Oh, one more. AKM BGD Tesla. That's a good one to finish with.
Oh my gosh, this is another one that has been. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I hate it. By the way, I love the just the sparring that happens between Tesla shorts and longs, and
Oh, I know
there's
it's great.
like an entire community of the whole Teslac, probably some of whom are watching, and you know, I it's great. I mean, those guys they're all super smart, and they've all analyzed the books and everything, and they're they all know the cash flow and how ugly things are.
Sure.
Um, but all I know is this thing has so many shorts in it that you know it could. I've played it in the past. Actually, early on, I played this thing short, and I got so pissed off because all it kept doing was going up and up and up, and I finally I was with the Tesla people. I was like, how can this be going up? There's no cash flow,
Oh man.
and I just finally bailed out of my position. And ever since then, it's just been a great short squeeze. And I think that's what we have going on now. I
Sure.
mean, I think 35% of the float is still short. And I know by this time, these guys are so sophisticated, they tend to protect their shorts
They'll add
with
to it. Yeah.
calls. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah, they do. I mean,
Sure.
they have big short positions in stocks, and they're protecting themselves with cheaper calls.
So funny. Oh my
But
goodness.
anyway, there's an obvious trend line here. Um, One thing you don't want to do with the stock, because I've done it and learned the hard way, don't buy it in the morning. it tends to
Yeah,
gap. Oh,
yeah, it
it's
can be
freaking.
wild.
Yeah, it tends to gap open, and you think, oh, it's taken off, and then it'll make pullbacks like this during the
Yep.
day.
Oh, like that. I know, just brutal.
Yeah. So if you're going to go long, which may not be a bad idea, Tesla tends to not trade with the overall market because it can squeeze so bad.
And a
Uh,
lot of it's not a lot of it's not even on. It's not even indexed on a lot of. They've taken it out of a lot of indexes. It's so crazy,
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but but yeah, I remember watching earnings on that one. I can't remember like a year ago, and like Elon came out, and like I mean, it was the worst earnings report ever. I mean, it was they missed on everything. Like they spent more cash than they had. They missed on earnings. They missed on deliveries. They missed on everything, and it went up.
yeah. And it just frustrates the shorts to no end.
And I think it went up like 50
Feel the pain.
points.
Yeah, and I mean that's what a massive short squeeze can do, and that those have been some of the best trades in my career. When you have people flooding into a stock, and then you also have all these people covering.
Oh,
I
it's the
mean,
best.
and you can feel it in the price action.
Yep.
It's just like not turning around.
Oh, I
It's like
remember when
doing
he came
something
out with
like
his.
this
I
for
was, when he
days.
came with that funding secured news, oh man, it was the best.
Yep.
Because they held the stock too, and I had a buddy that had calls in it, and it was like, oh, what's gonna happen? I said, I think you're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
ain't
That
going
was
down.
great. When was that? Do you remember? Was
Yeah, it
that
was
is
like
that
last summer. I believe
so? Maybe it was this move here,
it was.
October.
Was it October? Gosh, it might have been October, but it was great. It was like
Oh my
it was
god.
going, and it was like it moved like 20 points, and then they held it, and then it came out and said funding secured, and then it went like another. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was phenomenal. It was a great day.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, long story short, if you're looking to go long this, this is a pretty big level here, 260. You're kind of getting into maybe an inverted head and shoulders. Maybe you can get a bit of a pullback here. Maybe you can get this trend line. Um, yeah, maybe the market pulls back over the next few days. Maybe you get a bit of a move back,
it's
but
been
then
tricky to get an entry. If you go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 8 days, there's that 3 bar pullback there was the perfect entry, and
yeah,
then it gapped over it, and it's like because you want to take a
right,
break of the bar, just like the straight praise section off of it, and it gapped over it, and then gave that doji sandwich right there push up, and it was like that was really tough to catch. Gonna be
yeah, and that's a good point. And I've noticed that the best stocks to be in, they do that. They leave you behind. Like
Yep, Google did it recently too. And that was another one.
Disney.
Google was the other one too, I think. But
Oh, I got so screwed with Disney. Look, I even wrote it down here. This is one
yep,
of the biggest heartbreakers of my career. I
yep,
had 100 freaking calls, and then because I wanted to go into this was the day that they were going to announce all about Disney
yep.
Plus,
Disney Plus. It
and
was right
this,
before the investor event. Right before the investor event.
yeah,
Some
and
people who
this.
watched this show had actually held through that and did great. By the way, just FYI.
Oh,
But yeah.
I'm so jealous.
Oh man, I know. But tell me more about this. When did you get out on that red pullback right there?
Yeah. So for some dumb reason, I had my thesis that it was going to be a great event, and then I just basically gave in to price action. This bar here, right before it went up, knocked me out. I took all my calls off, and then the next day, this happened.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
glad you can talk about it with good humor because
Oh,
that's
I'm fine.
painful. That's painful.
Yeah, I'm fine. I've stuff like this. I've had
Ugh,
good ones like this, but this one was particular. I mean, this would have been
phenomenal.
like
It'd be
this would
incredible.
have, yeah, it would have supported
We
my
talk a lot
business for
about.
quite a long time.
Oh, absolutely. You'd have been great. That would have made your year right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We talk a lot about straddles like into certain events like this. Like Tesla gives you a lot of great events. Like when he comes out and said he did this one time, it was perfect for straddles. It was he just said like major announcement coming after the close, and like the IV was really low on the stock, right? I mean, so I was like, straddle. Like this
Yeah.
thing's either going way up or it's going way down. It ended up going way down, and those more than doubled the next morning. So
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, sometimes I forget about I straddles. There's another guy I talk with on Twitter. That's all he does, and sometimes he does pretty good. He did a lot of straddles on Boeing when all this different news was
when the
coming
news came
out.
out, yeah, Boeing's
Yeah,
there's some rules that I've listed on straddles that are pretty key, and but that IV has to be low, and so you can't do it into earnings, right? I mean, you can, and someone, Jason, one of the guys who listens, he's like, should I do a straddle into Netflix? And I was like, you got to be careful because it's been really flat after a lot of earnings. But this time Netflix it would have worked, but
yeah,
it's rare. It's very rare. So
yeah, because the IV, pumps
crush,
up, and
yeah.
then you get the crush. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good stuff, guys. Real quick, if you want to take a look at Google, that's kind of one that was we kind of skipped over there real quick. But
Oh, okay,
other than that, we'll wrap up after that. So
okay. Yeah, Google another really heavy bar down on Friday. So Fang, I was looking at this earlier today. Fang is just, I don't know. We'll see. I hate making a lot of conclusions. Hold on one second. I hate making a lot of judgments or conclusions on an options expiration day. So Friday was, big options expiration. It's, prices get shoved all over the place if there's heavy. So I don't want to be too negative, but I would watch for a pullback. You have all these moving averages converging here. Maybe you get a pullback to here, and then if the market reverses, this might be a good spot. So 1120. Um, you need to be careful though. I would keep an eye on Fang. If you have a charting package that allows you to like put them all together, like sometimes I do this. Like I do FB plus Apple plus
right, yep, make your own
um,
index.
Amazon. Yeah, basically make your own index. Yeah, Netflix, Google, and then hopefully it won't freak out. Yeah, I mean it's pretty. It's not very pretty right now. Um, this a lot of this is Amazon. A lot of times I'll kind of divide Amazon because it takes up most. But anyway, you get my point. I think there's a pullback coming here, so just be careful with
Yep,
Fang.
absolutely. Awesome, speculator Steve. Thank you so much for sharing everything. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This is a great session. Really learned a lot. Great perspective from a great trader, and thanks for taking the time out of your evening to share your thoughts with us. It's been really really great and just really enlightening. So thank you again so much, and thank you everybody for tuning in too and checking this one out tonight. So really really appreciate it. Steve, if you don't mind, just like hanging on the line just for a second, and then
Sure.
when I kind of come off here, and we'll just kind of wrap up there. And all right, guys. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Everybody get some rest, and remember your risk first, and stay safe so you can stay in the game. And we'll talk to you guys soon.